Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Renck. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I am. Broncos are back at mandatory minicamp. Get to see some practice. Got a little bit of a training camp vibe to it. And covering a team with real expectations where they're not sitting around, spraining their rotator cuff, thanking themselves for making the playoffs with 10 wins. This is a team that wants to take that next step. And they did something on Tuesday that might help them do that, but only if it unfolds in a certain way. What is that? And Garrett Bolles, one of my favorite Broncos, joins the show. I was at his football camp on Monday night, a free football camp at Legend High, around 300 kids there from ages, I think, 5 all the way up to it might have been some high school, but certainly 8th grade. Talked to Garrett Bolles and his wife, Natalie, about his journey over the course of his career, because frankly, folks, I've told people this, I've never covered a Broncos player, and I don't think another Broncos player exists that has his career arc. From booed to beloved and on his third contract, I mean, it's unprecedented. And, if they win a Super Bowl while he's here, he's got a 4-year deal that his extension. If they were to win a Super Bowl during that time, he'd have a strong case to be a Ring of Famer. So what a career arc. You can see my column in the Denver Post where I talked exclusively with his wife, Natalie, about their journey, and certainly Garrett. And Garrett joins the pod in his media access on Monday, talking about his contract and, being with the Broncos and expectations this season. So a lot of good stuff. And then, as we mentioned, one really interesting move, a free agent signing. Who's that? And what does it mean? We're going to get to all of that after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt for years. We talk Broncos all the time on road trips, watching our boys play baseball across the country. Darby's the one that said, hey, Troy, you got to do a Broncos podcast. I'm so grateful. He nudged me in that direction. Listen, Darby became my personal friend. He becomes many of his clients' good friends. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, you see the number there, those watching on YouTube, 1-833-464-4288. That number is 1-833-HOGGATT. That's Hoggatt. Or you visit the website, hoggattlaw.com. All right, folks, welcome back. I am Troy Renck, columnist for the Denver Post. If you're missing some of my stuff in the Post, please, I encourage you to go there. They grade us on everything from page views and metrics and all that. Plus, I just think it's some good content, not only from me, but certainly from Parker Gabriel, Luca Evans, and Sean Keeler will have some Broncos stuff this week as well. I think we do a terrific job. I'm biased, of course, but a terrific job in the Denver Post with our Broncos content, have you covered on a bunch of different angles. And one of those angles on Tuesday was the free agent signing of J.K. Dobbins. We've talked about Dobbins on the pod in the past, that they had interest. They brought him in last week for a dinner. He toured the facility, did a workout. He left without a contract. This happened with Evan Ingram as well. Some of this is a leverage play by the player and his agent. Some of it is the Broncos kind of drawing a line in the sand. So what happened? Let's go through that first. Well, here's what happened. You can tell just piecing the, connecting the dots. Nick Chubb was also a free agent. He and Dobbins were the last two kind of known high-profile running backs available at this time of year in June. Chubb, like Dobbins, who's had an injury history, the one unfortunate, just crazy injury Chubb's had a couple years ago, he signs a 1-year, $2.5 million deal with the Texans with incentives that can get him to $5 million. So that's now the floor for Dobbins. Dobbins had been tendered by the Chargers at $1.6 million, a really weird tender, like teams don't do that. And so he was obviously wanting more than that, and he was shopping it around. As soon as you get the signing of Nick Chubb, now he's got a floor. He's got a clear framework to work with. So he goes back to the Broncos, he and his agent, and they work out a deal where a little more, 2.75, and he can make up to 5.25. So essentially a similar contract with $250,000 more than Chubb. Why Dobbins? Why now? And I understand fans, there's two different reactions to this. One, fans are like, let's go. Another need addressed. This team is going for it. They're trying to win a division title. They're trying to win playoff games. They're not happy with 10 wins. That's a great reaction, especially where this team was for the previous 7-8 years before last season. The second reaction is, wait, what? I thought RJ Harvey was the guy. Did I miss something? Well, they're both kind of related. Two things can be true here. Number one, why did they sign J.K. Dobbins? Well, what I believe is after they watched the players in April, May, and June, specifically the young backfield of, excuse me, R.J. Harvey, Audric Estime, and Jaleel McLaughlin. So you're talking about players who are a rookie. One is in his second year, and one would be in his third year. It's a very inexperienced backfield. That doesn't necessarily matter in the NFL. Young backs can translate pretty quickly and have success. It's one of the few positions where you see a lot of seamless transition from college. So why go out and get a veteran? Well, the word veteran matters. Experience for the room. A guy who's been there, done that. A guy who's had some success in his career, including last year, almost 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns with the Chargers. Also had some, flashes with the Ravens, former star at Ohio State. So experience is number one, but that's not the big reason. That's not, you can find experience in July when someone gets cut and bring someone in. My belief, and they won't say it, is that after watching the practices, watching the film, they weren't completely comfortable with the pass protection and the knowledge of the pass protection of Harvey, Estime, and McLaughlin. McLaughlin's not really suited for it, so wouldn't really be him, so I don't want to unfairly criticize him and lump him in. But if Harvey or Estime are going to be your 1A, 1B, and you don't trust them necessarily on third down, you go get a third down back. That's the crazy thing, and the irony is that's what Javonte Williams did well last year. He was really good on third down, and he was really good in pass pro. Probably one of the best pass pro guys in the NFL last year. So why not just bring him back? Well, again, he lacked explosiveness. It was very clear last year that he wasn't a starting running back in the league anymore. And as much as I love Javonte, I love the story. If Sean Payton had brought him back, I think the tendency would have been to try to play him, that gravitational pull to play him more than he deserved and not put him in a niche role. And so they move on from him. So essentially they were searching for him or a Samaje Perine type. Dobbins got more of a chance in the run game than Perine did. Perine is the classic, very, very narrowly profiled third down back that has a career in the league, both with the Bengals and now the Chiefs. He's the perfect one to do it because he can run. He doesn't run very much, but he's really good in the passing game, and you never worry that he's going to miss a blitz or miss a protection. So why Dobbins? Well, Dobbins, in theory, and again, he's had an injury history. Wrist, knee, Achilles. Like, he's had some stuff, man. He's gone through some stuff. Can he be a slightly more explosive version of Javonte Williams? Because Javonte Williams did not have that burst last year. I think he had one run over 20 yards, a very low number. Bo Nix was their most explosive runner last year. That says everything. They have to improve on the ground. You listened to Mike McGlinchey last week here on the pod. Like, at some point, it's not that we want to be good. They need to be good and need to be better in the running game. So, in what I'm explaining to you on this is an indictment of R.J. Harvey. Didn't they love Harvey? Isn't he Darren Sproles? They said all that. So, yes, in some ways, you're like, man, did Peyton kind of overplay his hand that this kid didn't catch the football a lot in college? He was a exclusive run guy, and while we see his good hands in practice, is he not ready for it? That's very possible that they saw it, and where they are in their mode as a team of win now, get off to a fast start, there's a possibility that they looked at that, and, well, it's not a possibility. They did look at it. Whether they'd ever say this is it, that, hey, we need more. We need to protect ourselves here. And so in some ways it's like, oof, I hope they're not going to regret getting the other Ohio State quarterback, running back Trevion Henderson. That's the one we all thought they were going to draft. I mean, because they were kind of off Omari and Hampton by the time the draft came. But Henderson they could have moved up to get, but Jade Barron falls in their lap. He's overqualified for that spot in the draft, and he's been great. So it's hard to criticize that pick, but it'll be easy to criticize that pick if Harvey doesn't develop and J.K. Dobbins has to be the starting running back for like 10, 12 weeks. That puts you into a similar situation where you were last year with Javonte Williams. And you're like, Troy, come on. Dobbins is better than Williams. Not so fast. When you look at the stats the last few months of the season, they were basically a similar back. 3.8 yards a carry. He really slowed down. He missed time with an injury. I think it was an MCL last year. He missed time. His best game was arguably against the Broncos last year in Denver. And he showed some of that explosiveness. And he was really good in September. Really good. So that's where I'm thinking that could there be this hybrid explanation of it where they see Harvey, they say, you know what, he needs a little bit of time in both pass pro and just to get the offense. Dobbins comes in. This is why I'm explaining how this could work ideally. Dobbins comes in. He is the guy that starts in September. But by the time October rolls around, time we get to London, Harvey has clearly taken over and Dobbins slides into that niche role of third down pass protector. I don't know what that means for Estime. He might get cut. I mean, he was a fifth rounder last year. I would really be a shame to not really see what he could do and get cut. But listen, that's pro sports. I mean, I would love to see him get an opportunity, and maybe he will in camp. He'll force their hand. But he is, if he doesn't understand the alarm bells that are going off now with his career in Denver, I can't help him because they didn't bring in Dobbins because they're just overjoyed with their running back room. That's not how it works. So ideally, Dobbins starts early, gives you that veteran presence with Bo Nix early on, make sure everything's settled, stable. And again, this could change. Obviously, training camp is well, long way off. And then you have R.J. Harvey works his way into the lineup, and then you have either McLaughlin, Bidet, Estime, again, one of those guys has some type of role. And so when you look at it, that could be how this works. And then eventually Dobbins becomes a third down back. But I'm going to tell you right now, if Dobbins starts like 10, 12 games and is their main running back, even though, Peyton rotates, as we all know, then I don't like it. Then they're not better than last year. If Dobbins starts early and becomes a third down pass protector late, and R.J. Harvey, or maybe it's Estime, but it would be more likely Harvey, explodes onto the scene and he's the clear starter, that's where you're a better offense. Now you've got Ingram, you've got Vele getting more action, you've got Sutton back, you've got Troy Franklin improving, and now you've got this backfield that's more productive. And the one thing to keep an eye on Dobbins, and this is more of a fantasy league thing probably for folks, he's good in short yardage situation. There's weird stats out there where he had better success against 8-man fronts than he did against normal fronts. And part of it's because they used him at the goal line. He had 9 touchdowns. They need that guy. I thought Estime was going to be a hammer last year at the goal line. I mean, the guy didn't need Siri to find the end zone at Notre Dame, but they didn't use him that way. So you look at it, this is how the Dobbins thing could work, folks, and how the Broncos, when you're trying to go from 10 to 11 wins or to 12 wins, Dobbins starts early, third down back, middle of the season, and then he's a guy you trust at the goal line to get in at the 1-yard line, 2-yard line, that inside the 5, 3rd and 1 at midfield. That's where he could make this team better. And if that happens, yay, you're right. If it doesn't, and Harvey cannot beat him out, I don't like it. And then I'll be the first one to hold my hand up and say, hey, probably should have drafted Travion Henderson, who is very good in pass pro, built like a pro guy from jump, and understands like the pro style offense. What does that mean for the offense? Well, if this running game is going to work, you've got to look like the line's going to be good. And this offensive line should be damn good. Everyone's back, folks. Every starter, every backup. It's unbelievable the retention rate they had up front. You got Garrett Bolles, left tackle, Ben Powers, left guard, Luke Wattenberg at center, All-Pro Quinn Miners at right guard, and then you have at right tackle Mike McGlinchey. That's a really good group. Well, I had a chance to talk to Garrett Bolles at his camp on Monday, and a couple of quick things about his camp at Legend High. He's really good friends with Jake Heaps. Jake Heaps, if you know the backstory, is Russell Wilson's personal quarterbacks coach. He was around the team for a few years. I get along with Jake. I like him. He had an opportunity to become a head coach, and now he's the head coach at Legend High, his first high school coaching gig. He's been a guy that was like one of the top-ranked quarterback recruits in the country out of the Seattle area, played at Kansas, different schools, and then he ultimately was in the pros as a practice squad guy. I don't know if he was ever on an active roster, and became friends with Russell Wilson. They intersected in Seattle. He's been his quarterback coach. Well, he's now the head coach at Legend High. Garrett Bolles is going to be kind of a general manager there to the Legend High football program. Heaps kid and Bolles kid, it's my understanding, play flag football together. I saw Jake at the camp there as well. His players were the volunteers. And Bolles, as the general manager, is giving advice on kind of mental health issues, nutritional issues, obviously conditioning issues, when he can be around. He's a full-time Bronco. But they have a strong relationship, so the camp's at Legend, and it's free. I love that. So organic in this camp. It's not the corporate speak and one DJ screaming the whole time. And some of those camps, frankly, feel like a money grab, for a kid to get an autograph or a kid to get an autograph for his parents, or a babysitting service. This felt really organic. Hey, free camp, kids, show up, and Garrett Bolles and 7-8 of his teammates will be there to help out. And that was Crum and Alex Pachetsky and Adam Troutman, and a bunch of guys were there to support Bolles. And so credit to Bolles for doing that. You just don't see many free camps anymore. And I love the fact that it felt organic. So cap tip to Bolles for doing that for the kids. Bolles is such an interesting story, and I really would encourage you to read my column in the Denver Post if you hear. That's Bentley the Bulldog barking in the background. Something's upset him. But my column in the Denver Post traces the story, his career arc, and through the kind of the eyes of his wife, Natalie. They met at Snow College in Utah before then Garrett transferred to Utah. That's where he was drafted out of. And what a journey. I mean, Garrett, you all know, he got kicked out of his house. His lacrosse family coach adopted him. He was a lacrosse star, picked up football late, fell in love with it late, and dedicated his life to it. Then he went on a Mormon mission. It was unbelievable at Utah in his 1 year. They're just a physical, raw freak of nature. Penalties just drove him down. I mean, there's just no way around it. The penalties hurt, and they put him in a position where he was just getting booed roundly. And his wife talked about how she told me, she's like, I hated going to the games. I have to admit it was horrible. I would put a blanket over my head, and she would watch the road games on delay and have her mother-in-law text her, so she'd be 30 minutes behind if there was a penalty on Garrett, because she had so much anxiety about it. She's a strong woman. She was a cheerleader at Snow College. She is a strong person in his background, and she helped Garrett turn his career around during the COVID year. You all remember we were in lockdown. He was living in a place in California at the time, and he had a decision to make. The Broncos had declined his option, so he had a chance. Do I sulk? Do I pout? His rookie fifth-year option, which generally indicates they're going to move on from you. It's a weird situation, like you're telling a guy a year in advance, we're probably not bringing you back. His wife said, why don't we could just sit here, or you could get better. So she became his edge rusher in the kitchen, out in the yard, as he worked on his footwork, staying in front, moving his feet, and also his hand technique. Garrett is unbelievably talented, but he was an emotional player early in his career where he was having trouble getting coached because he'd get so emotional when he made a mistake. With the help of his wife, and Mike Munchak played a real role in stabilizing him as well, he becomes an All-Pro in 2020, gets his first contract extension, and then last year I was the one advocating for to keep him around. He's a solid left tackle, folks. He gave up 2 sacks and like 500 dropbacks. I think it was 476 technically. The guy's a good left tackle. He drives you a little crazy at times, but he's loyal, he's fierce, he's physical. He's not perfect, but for me, he's probably a top 10 to 13 tackle in the league. And he took a discount. I mean, you're saying discount, 4-year, $82 million, like $40+ million guaranteed. He could have got way more than that, folks, on the market, with the Chiefs looking, the Titans looking, Patriots looking, but he didn't want to go anywhere. So I want you to hear from Garrett Bolles. This was during his press conference on Monday, on why the importance of doing the camp for kids, on returning to the Broncos, what that means, and the continuity of the offensive line. And also, when I asked him about, kind of, do you ever pinch yourself on this journey to go from, again, booed to beloved, and what that means for him. So let's listen to Garrett Bolles from Monday night talking about his camp and his journey that has left him the longest tenured Bronco. Garrett, take it away.
It's just really cool to get back and get back to the community, see these kids' faces, see a smile on their face. That just means the world to me. I love playing football. I love the fans. I love everything about football. But this is what it's about, to give me a voice and a platform, to get back in the community and to be able to benefit them is like they benefit me. I feel like they do a lot more for me than I do for them. They touch my heart and put a smile on my face and make it, my job so much easier and so much fun to be able to go out there and play on Sundays and, seeing the kids in the game and, they're cheering my name. That's what it's all about.
A lot of these camps are not free. They're kind of corporate, to be honest. You got speakers and people yelling. Why was it important for you to make it a free camp and available to anyone?
I don't want to charge any kid. I wanted them to come out here and have free and experience what I've experienced, and a lot of these people, they come from different backgrounds, some low-income families, some higher-end families, just a broad range of people. And to be able to get back a free camp and just get back to the community, get back to the people that love and care for me, that gave me an opportunity and a voice and platform to be able to boost my foundation and to boost my ability to play football. I want it to be free so they can have that same ability. If I can touch one kid out of 300, that's all that matters to me. And hopefully, all 300s touch and they can take something from this and apply it into their life. But if they just take one thing, I just want them to have fun, put a smile on their face. And my favorite quote, where it doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. Everyone talked about, you could have gotten more money in free agency. You could have gotten that. I wanted to create a legacy. And I wanted to create to where people know who my name is and be able to create a foundation legacy here and, also a profile on the football field too. And I feel like that's why I stayed here in Denver. Not only is it my son and everything that he's gone through here with his speech and everything like that, but just to be able to, this is home. Colorado's home to me. My family loves it here. My kids love it here. And, I see myself living here for the rest of my life. That's a good question. I think I always tell people, today I was doing media and, through physicals, and they said, if you had one word that described with all your teammates, I think one person would say, you love everybody. And that's just the truth. I love every single person. Even though if I may know you or may not know you, I want you to feel welcome. I want your families to feel welcome. That's what Von Miller did to me. That's what Derek Wolfe, that's what Chris Harris did. And not only, but, RIP to Demaryius Thomas and, Emmanuel Sanders and those type of guys that supported me and loved me and taught me what it means to be a Denver Bronco and taught what it means to win the Super Bowl here. And, so I learned from those guys. And, Von's a great friend of mine. And we talk on a regular basis and I hear what, he did here. And I want to be just like that. And so, showing that he reached out to me. I still have his voicemail on my phone. I still have Demaryius's on my phone. So those guys mean the world to me, and I know that, that's what they gave me, a platform and a voice, and I just want to give back just like they gave to me.
So many times we would ask you about, oh man, if you just had a quarterback and maybe this season's the season. Well, now you've been in the playoffs and you got Bo Nix. How has that changed the mindset for this team as you prepare for this season?
Bo's a freak of nature. I'm so grateful he's in a Denver uniform, and, his composure, his demeanor, his work ethic, everything about him. He has all the clues, the demeanor, and everything that you can think of in a quarterback that can lead your team to a Super Bowl. And I'm so grateful I get a block for him, and the connection we have, the friendship that we have, and our team's special. Our team, like I said, last year we were young and we were inexperienced, and finally, we dipped our toe in the water. It obviously didn't end up the way that we wanted to end up, but I think we learned so much about what we have and the core plays that we have, and speaks to Coach Payton and Mr. Payton, what they do of keeping the guys around and the guys that they wanted around. And, you become one of the guys, they love you forever. And, I'm just grateful I'm one of their guys to be able to provide, staying here. And, I love playing left tackle. I love being in the Broncos uniform. And, I couldn't be more grateful and excited for this season and see where it goes, for sure. Obviously, we're one of the best O-lines in football. The stats don't lie. And I love playing with all my brothers. I love playing with Ben. I think me and him have a great chemistry. He's going to be here tonight, and I love him dearly for showing up tonight. But just our chemistry and the love we have, and, playing left side, we're just a different breed of people. No shout out to the right side, but we're just different. And, me and Ben, we have a great connection. We got Luke in the middle that, is so smart and puts us in the right situations. We got a freak of nature, bullet train, Bulldozer and Quinn Miners, and the All-Pro that he is for a reason. And then we got Mike McGlinchey that holds down the right side too. And I truly believe me and Mike are some of the best duos in football when it comes to booked ends. And I'm just grateful to my friendship that I have with all of them, the love we have for one another, the chemistry we have, and it goes a long way. When we're in practice, we're joking, having a good time, spraying each other with water. Well, it's mostly me spraying them with water, but it's just a fun time, man, and I'm really looking forward to the season.
You said Quinn got a haircut?
He got a haircut.
Quinn did?
His dreads are gone. He looks great.
Less.
He probably lost a couple pounds. Hopefully he did. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm grateful for him, and I'm excited for the season he's about to have.
Garrett, how much potential do you feel like you guys can have in the run game this year and kind of taking a step in that area?
For sure. Our running back room is loaded. We got RJ and we got Batty, we got Estime, and all those guys in there that are freaks of nature. And there's a reason why we brought those guys in. You want to think he's a rookie, but he's a dog. And you see him in mini camp, in OTAs and what he's done. And he's caught on to the playbook, and he has the speed that we need. But our coach in that room leads those boys, and I feel like it's gonna come up to us five up front. Our demeanor and the way we run off the ball, the tenacity we have, and the chemistry that we have to get the ball running. And when we do that, we're a dangerous team.
Do you ever pinch yourself and think where you were your rookie year to where you are now, second contract? Like if you win a Super Bowl, you could be a Ring of Famer. Like, do you ever sit back and think of how far you've come?
He said it was my second contract, but it's my third contract.
Technically your third, yeah, second extension.
It's my second extension. You're right. No, for sure. I think, like I said, it's a legacy thing for me. And, I love being in the Denver Broncos uniform. It's family. And I didn't want to leave something that I feel like I've worked so hard to get into a winning situation and it's finally happening.
Right.
And I didn't want to leave that situation because I want to be part of it. I want to be the solution. I want to be the rock to the team playing left tackle. And, being the oldest guy, there's a lot of responsibility to that. Everyone's going to look up to you. Like, how do you get to your third contract? How do you even get to your second contract? And, those conversations, I hold dear to my heart with my teammates. And I'm just super grateful that they trust me and, they put me in the right situation with Coach Streif and the technique that he gives to me and the love that Coach Spain has for me, the love that, George has for me and everybody up front in the office and our wonderful owners. And, I'm just beyond grateful to be here.
Welcome back to the pod. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I love Bolles because he's candid, he's loyal, he's I've seen him involved. Like I'm a reporter, but I'm kind of proud of his journey because the guy, he was getting buried his first couple years here. Like there's no way he's coming back. And you just don't see it when a guy falls that far out of favor for his play and the fans are on him. And credit to Bolles, credit to his wife, Natalie, for the way he turned his career around. And he had a message at the end of his camp at the beginning of his camp that is in my column. It's very apropos to his career. And he said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And no one has changed minds from their start to how he's finishing his Bronco career like Garrett Bolles. So hope you enjoyed that interview with Bolles and get a little insight into the man. And finally, we will conclude with this. When we keep telling you, and that's me on my podcast, that Bo Nix is different this spring. He's more comfortable. He's more confident. Remember, he doesn't curse. But yesterday, on Tuesday, we're watching at OTAs. He's going at the defense, folks, talking some real trash, pointing some fingers, getting after it. There's a competitive drive there to him. Again, I'd say like this. You talk about a shark, no wasted movement. He's got a real will to win. That he's got that hates to lose more than loves to win thing, which is really powerful with a professional athlete. But he was talking smack. He was talking smack to Brandon Jones, the safety. He was talking smack to the defense. And what this all means is just shows you his comfort level. You don't have the ability to talk smack when you don't know your offense. You don't have that ability when you're not even sure you're going to be the starter. He is just so much more comfortable in his skin as a leader of this team and in his knowledge of the offense and everything feeling. It's not perfect. It's not. He had a pick on Tuesday. His ball probably should have been caught. Jaquan McMillan caught a tip pass. But it's just an indication of a player who is evolving into franchise quarterback role. As McGlinchey said, you heard him last week, It's Bo's team. It has gone from it was Bo's time to it is Bo's team. Keep that in mind. Folks, I could not do this podcast without the great folks at Mile High Sports and Nate Lundy, and it would not even be close to possible without Danny Bailey behind the screen. He does all the work putting the pod together, both for, where you get your pods audio in terms of Spotify and Apple. That's he and Nate Lundy. And the YouTube look, the headlines, and all this great stuff, that is Danny Bailey. I could not do it without him. And of course, Mile High Sports and my A1 from day one, Darby Hoggatt. I can't thank Darby enough for being involved in the pod. Broncos country, I do the pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.